In the shadowy recesses of ancient texts, long before the floodwaters surged and cleansed the earth, there was a time when giants walked among men. These were not mere legends or myths but the Nephilim, the offspring of fallen angels and mortal women, whose very existence defied the natural order. Towering and terrifying, these giants were not just physical behemoths. They were harbingers of chaos, destruction, and moral decay. Under the guidance of their fallen angelic fathers, the Watchers, they committed unspeakable acts, plunging humanity into a spiral of darkness. But their most heinous crime wasn't just their brute strength, or their insatiable lust for violence. It was the revelation of heaven's most sacred secrets. The Watchers, in their rebellion, unveiled the mysteries of the cosmos, hidden knowledge never meant for human eyes. They taught their wives and children the forbidden arts, from sorcery to weapon-making, knowledge that would ultimately corrupt and devastate the world. As these monstrous beings roamed the earth, they left a trail of devastation in their wake, a legacy of sin that would taint humanity forever. In this video, we will unravel the terrifying tale of the Nephilim, the giants who nearly destroyed the world, and the forbidden knowledge that sealed their doom. The giants were a peaceful group of people at first. Under the starry skies, they played, went hunting, and shared stories. One of the giants named Ohia was renowned for his leadership, while Haya for his benevolence, Hobabesh for his slyness, Gilgamesh for his bravery, and Mawe for his knowledge. Now Ohia's friend, the nameless giant, was renowned for his kindness and faithfulness. They all treasured the relationship and connection they had. Each of these giants had a wife, and in those early days, the women were treated with honor and respect. They were the keepers of the hearth, the nurturers of life, and the voices of wisdom in the quiet hours of the night. Ohia's wife, Lilura, was as strong in spirit as her husband was in body. Haya's wife, Mishael, was known for her kindness, a perfect match for her benevolent husband. Hobabesh's wife, Dara, was wise and sharp, often guiding her cunning husband in matters that required subtlety. Gilgamesh's wife, Asta, was fierce and brave, sharing in her husband's valor. Mawe's wife, Seraphine, was as knowledgeable as her husband, her mind a treasure trove of ancient lore. And then there was the nameless giant's wife, whose name was forgotten by history but whose presence was felt in every heart. She was the embodiment of grace and faithfulness, her life a testament to the love she shared with her husband. Their bond was unbreakable, a beacon of hope and harmony among the giants. But as time went on, a shadow began to creep into their lives. It was subtle at first, a lingering sense of unease that whispered in the night. The giants, once united in their friendship and kinship, began to drift apart. Hobabesh, in particular, grew restless. His cunning mind, once a source of pride, became a tool for darker desires. He coveted what was not his, and in a moment of reckless folly, he took another giant's wife as his own. The act was one of pure betrayal, and it sent shockwaves through their once peaceful community. The giants, who had never known such discord, were suddenly thrust into a world of strife and anger. Ohia, the leader, was the first to confront Hobabesh. His voice, usually calm and steady, was filled with rage as he demanded an explanation. "Hobabesh, what have you done?" Ohia thundered, his towering form casting a long shadow over the trembling giant. "You have betrayed our trust, shattered the peace of our land, and brought shame upon us all." Hobabesh, cunning as ever, tried to defend his actions. "I took what I desired, Ohia," he replied with a sly grin. "Is it not in our nature to claim what we want, to take what we need?" But Ohia would not be swayed. "You have taken another's wife, Hobabesh. This is not an act of strength but of cowardice and deceit. You have brought war upon us all." And so, the seeds of conflict were sown. The other giants, each with their own loyalties and grievances, were drawn into the fray. The land that had once echoed with laughter and song was now filled with the sounds of battle. Friends turned against one another, and the earth beneath their feet trembled with the force of their blows. But the true victims of this conflict were the wives of the giants. Once revered and respected, they were now caught in the crossfire of their husbands' rage. Their lives, once filled with warmth and love, became a living nightmare. Lilura, who had always been Ohia's equal, found herself reduced to a mere possession, her voice silenced by the violence around her. Miss Hale, once the epitome of kindness, watched in horror as her husband Haya was consumed by the fury of war. Dara, the wise, was now a pawn in Hobabesh's schemes, her sharp mind twisted to serve his dark ambitions. Asta, the brave, fought alongside Gilgamesh, but even her courage could not protect her from the cruelty of the battlefield. And Seraphine, the knowledgeable, found that all the wisdom in the world could not save her from the madness that had overtaken her husband Maui. The nameless giant's wife, however, suffered the most. Her husband, once known for his kindness and faithfulness, was torn between his love for her and his loyalty to his friends. He tried to shield her from the horrors of the war, but the chaos around them was relentless. The bond that had once been their strength now became their weakness, as the nameless giant was forced to make impossible choices. As the war raged on, the giants grew more brutal in their treatment of their wives. The women, who had once been the heart of their homes, were now seen as burdens, symbols of the conflict that had torn their world apart. They were neglected, beaten, and in some cases, even killed. The giants, blinded by their rage, forgot the love they had once shared with their wives. They forgot the warmth of their touch, the sound of their laughter, and the wisdom of their words. The land, once fertile and lush, began to wither under the weight of the giants' sins. The skies grew dark, and the stars that had once watched over them with benevolence now seemed distant and cold. The rivers that had nourished their crops dried up, and the animals that had once roamed freely in the forests disappeared. The world itself seemed to turn against the giants, as if nature itself could no longer bear to witness their cruelty. In the midst of this darkness, the nameless giant's wife prayed for deliverance. She prayed not for herself, but for her husband, for the other wives, and for the land that had been their home. She prayed for the day when the giants would remember who they were, when they would lay down their weapons and return to the lives they had once known. Her prayers did not go unheard. One night, as the battle reached its peak, a great storm arose. The winds howled like the cries of the fallen, and the rain fell in torrents, washing away the blood that had stained the earth. The giants, caught in the midst of their fight, were forced to stop and seek shelter from the fury of the storm. They huddled together, their massive forms dwarfed by the power of nature, and for the first time in what seemed like an eternity, there was silence. In that silence, the nameless giant looked at his wife. He saw the pain in her eyes, the scars that marred her once beautiful face, and the sorrow that weighed on her heart. He realized then what he had done, what they had all done. They had destroyed the very thing they had sought to protect, their lives, their loves, and their land. With a heavy heart, the nameless giant rose to his feet. He called out to the others, his voice strong and clear above the raging storm. "Brothers," he cried, "we have lost our way. We have allowed our anger and our pride to consume us, and in doing so, we have destroyed everything we hold dear. It is not too late to turn back, to make amends for our sins." The other giants listened, their hearts heavy with guilt and regret. They looked at their wives, at the women who had stood by them through the darkest of times, and they knew that the nameless giants spoke the truth. One by one, they laid down their weapons. They knelt before their wives, asking for forgiveness, and vowed to never again let anger and hatred rule their hearts. The storm began to abate, the winds died down, and the rain ceased to fall. The land, which had been ravaged by war, slowly began to heal. But the damage had been done. The giants, once proud and mighty, were now a broken people. Their wives, though they forgave their husbands, could never forget the suffering they had endured. The bonds of trust that had once held them together were forever weakened, and the land that had been their home was scarred beyond repair. In the end, the giants knew that their time was coming to an end. They had brought ruin upon themselves and upon the world, and there was no escaping the consequences of their actions. The great flood that was to come would wash away their sins, but it would also wash away their lives. As the waters began to rise, the giants and their wives gathered together one last time. They held each other close, whispering words of love and sorrow, knowing that their fate was sealed. The nameless giant and his wife stood apart from the others, their hands clasped tightly together, as they faced the approaching tide. "I am sorry," the nameless giant whispered to his wife, his voice choked with emotion. "I am sorry for everything." His wife smiled, a sad and weary smile, and shook her head. "It is not your fault, my love. We were all to blame. But know this, I have loved you from the moment we met, and I will love you until the end of time." And with those words, they were swept away by the flood, their lives, their loves, and their legacy carried away by the waters. Thank you for your support.